I mean? So I have 4 kids by the age of 23 years old. So this journey of becoming a parent at such a young age, um, it grew me up a lot. It was like the antithesis of a lot of my experiences. It was like a mirror where I got to see exactly who I was as a person and how far I was coming along. But throughout the entire process, you know what I mean? I never strayed away from being present in my children's lives. Even though I had problems and I had a lot of things going on, I never strayed away from being present in their lives. And throughout that whole time, you know, I wasn't really conscious of what goes on in our community to a degree, or conscious of our history or any of these type of things, right? I was just a young dude. I was just a rolling stone, kind of living the way that my brothers and my father kind of not teaching me directly, but just watching how they moved. I was kind of moving the same way, you know what I mean? And as I came of age, I would say around my mid 20s, I began reading a lot up until my mid 30s. So what would happen is after I began reading about our history and what we've been through in systematic racism and all these different things, I kind of seen my role that I was playing and a part of that. Like just by real, like on some real shit, just by not respecting women, you know what I mean? By not respecting my seed, by not taking my future seriously, by not thinking about not thinking 15, 20 years down the line, instead of having that short-sighted way of thinking that a lot of us have in our community. So once I started reading a lot, getting into tune with who I was, I began to just reflect on, because again, even though I'm in my children's lives, at this point, I have 5 children with 3 different women, right? So this is 2 different households. This is 2 different trains of thought to a degree, 2 different communities, if you will. A household in itself, in my opinion, is an actual community. Its own laws, its own rules, its own disciplinary factions. You see what I'm saying? So
Yes.
when you have to combine these things and you haven't even established what type of person you're going to be, you haven't even established how you're going to rule your kingdom, but now you're in charge of all these things. It's eye-opening, you know what I mean? And it grew me up
Yeah.
a lot. It grew me up a lot. So once I began reading, figuring out who I was, I think around the time Trayvon Martin got killed, I was like, all right, I got to do something. Like I got to figure out some way to make my imprint in this movement, because at that point I was realizing that it's several different ways to be a revolutionary. It's several different ways to be an empowering factor in your community, right? So I was like, you know what? I need to start something for fathers or for our community. And the only lens that I can speak through that would have been completely genuine is the lens of a father, because that's what I've been doing more than any other thing I've done in my life, longer than any other job I've had. I've been
Mm.
doing that job longer than anything else. So I said, okay, when I was 21, 22 years old, having these kids, being extremely irresponsible, not being able to control my emotions because I was raised by a mom. I had brothers, but ultimately a lot of my actions reflected how my mom acted, just to keep
Come
the
on.
shit real. You see what I'm saying?
Come
So
on.
I'm acting like my mom to a degree. So I'm thinking to myself now, okay, what does a 21, 22-year-old man need that may have a kid on the way, maybe in an urban community? What does he need to come to self-realization, right? So I was like, all right, let me build a platform where if a 22, 23-year-old young man looks at it, he'll be able to get different doses of what he needs to find out who he is. You feel what I'm saying? So for
Yeah.
me, that's history, that's different forms of knowledge, that's knowing what's going on in the world. So creating Melanated Fathers of America, the website, which is melanatedfathers.com, that's what you find there. You find news stories about our culture, you find articles about parenting, you find a book of the month every month, you find um, 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 different articles about relationships and things like that. I have my podcast on there as well. There's a
Uh,
history matters section where every week I release another article about a particular place in our history, a time period, a person. You see what I'm saying? And
yeah.
it's really it's basic knowledge as well. Some things I go a little deeper, but I want it to be the spark where someone looks at it and you read it and you say, okay, now I want to do more research. Now I want to do my research, because I think ultimately if you're going to learn something, you have to invest in it yourself as far as your time and your energy or figuring out what you're actually looking at. So I created the website so that it's a couple different parts to it. I'm I'm a person who, growing up, I had an extremely bad stuttering problem, right? So what got me out of that is reading. So I became like a real big proponent of reading. So a
Mhm.
part of the website is always going to have articles and things where you can read, because I think it's important for us to read. It's important for us to make our children read. Another part of the movement is Melanated Fathers TV, where on there I do my podcast. I have history segments where I talk about different things in history. That's to give people a visual who may not want to read or don't have time to read. So I give them a visual with my voice sometimes, but a visual nonetheless. And then
Yeah,
there's the community aspect of Melanated Fathers of America, where so far I do an annual Father's Day game every year.
yeah,
We feed people for Thanksgiving. Um, uh, uh, um, um, Black History Month, I do something where I kind of delve deep into our real history. I just
mhm.
did a feeding or lunch basically for everybody suffering from the COVID-19 thing. When that first started, we gave out
Yeah,
like 1,500 lunches. You see what I'm saying?
yeah,
So at this point in my life, Keon, I think the most beautiful thing about my evolution and my experience is I feel like, excuse me, I finally found out why I'm here. Like, to have an extreme sense of purpose, right? So every
yeah,
day, this is what I'm doing. Every day, this is what I'm thinking about. So every day, I'm plugging into new and innovative ways to help Black people, specifically fathers, specifically young fathers, be well aware of who they are, so we can begin to like start our families the correct way by having a
yeah.
full grasp on the system that we live in. You see what I'm saying?
I
Because if you
do.
listen, you see what I'm saying? Because if you listen to some Republicans and different political pundits, they'll make it sound like our homes being broken is the reason why we act and all this shit. But this is an extremely convoluted argument that has a lot of moving pieces to it, right? So because I understand our history, I don't blame our people. I understand who's been the puppet master, so to speak. But at the end of the day, you are accountable for you. You see what I'm saying? So there are
Yep.
things you can do on your own to empower your family and move forward. So that's about it, bro. I created the platform to empower my community, and it's doing wonders. Like the impact that I'm able to have on people, me
Yeah,
being uh like historically, like through my life, I'm more of an introverted personality. Meaning I
yeah,
don't want to talk
yeah,
or be all
yeah.
out in the open. You
I
see what I'm
know.
saying?
Yeah, but that's what
So
I love
to
about your evolution. That's what I love about your evolution. And watching you. I don't want to cut you off. Continue.
No, and so basically what I was saying, so that's a big part of it. And being that I was a young man who stuttered and didn't necessarily have the ability to put together a sentence the way I wanted to, and it affected my confidence and all these different things. You know what I mean? So a lot of what I'm doing right now is therapeutic, man. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
is kind of helping me grow as a person. Now, of course, I'm getting acclaim from it, and people are watching what I'm doing, and I'm figuring out ways to make money from it. But all that's secondary. The biggest thing is figuring out my place in this world, and once I figure that out, spend every day moving towards that goal. And that's pretty much empowering Black people. Looking at there's 40 something million Black people in America, looking at where we stand economically, looking at the schools in the neighborhood that I grew up in look the same, looking at how a lot of young men is still killing themselves, not realizing there's a bigger war going on right now. You see what I'm saying? So looking
Mhm.
at COVID, looking at Trump, looking at all these men getting killed, to me, that's just the universe telling me to keep going. You see, I was already headed in that direction.
Yeah.
See, I was already
Yeah.
going in that direction. So the universe is telling me you got a long way to go. Keep on going, boy. Y'all got some work to do. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well,
So
yes,
man,
you
I'm just
do.
trying to
Yes,
help
you
my
do.
people, bro.
And I'm smiling, and I'm smiling big, bro, because um, for one, your story is important. Your story is important, and your transparency and your evolution. I'm
Mm-hmm.
watching you, and I'm seeing you grow. And like you said, when you mentioned that you were an introvert, we was always cool, we was always chill, we was always in the family setting, but your personality was always more introverted. And
Mm-hmm.
I see you pouring out right now. I see you beaming. I see you found your voice, and I see you in it. And that's what I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you,
I
and I love
appreciate
it.
that.
And that you have taken you're finding your place and have found your place and then continue to build
Mm-hmm.
um on that. That is important.